caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yes, indeed. And we're back, and we're in daylight savings time. Do you know what time it is? It's about time. Anyway, it's 11/7/21. And whether or not it's in the year 1521 or 2021, that's up for you to decide. Turn your clocks back now. I have about 6 analog clocks. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. I had to set 5 analog clocks back. I have one in my garage, but I don't even remember how to deal with that. It's one of those complicated because it has takes the temperature outside, inside, has the time on it and all that stuff. And it's like, it's either off for half the year or something like that. I forget. I hope it's like now getting on the right time, but I have a feeling it's going to be off. The hazelnut coffee with a little bit of whipped cream in it. I don't know, it tastes pretty good. Anyway, that's the title of the show for you early birds, or like I say, if you're watching this as the late show instead of the morning show. Turn your clocks back. Because.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. And apparently up in Oregon, like, they didn't want to do it, but they had to. And for those people who are into this weird stuff.
This calls for some big scratching.
I don't see how it calls for that, but, you know. I watched that movie with Tom Hanks yesterday, Finch. And I take back, you know, criticizing him. It was like when he was a younger actor, I mean, when he was younger, I just thought they gave him the wrong roles. But as he became an old man, which he is now, you know, he's a good actor. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I don't want to destroy the plot, but I mean, or, you know, not destroy the plot, but, you know, be a spoiler, you know. This isn't a spoiler alert, okay? I'm not going to spoil it for you. But it's basically a one-person movie. You know, he's the only actor. There are other characters in it. But it's, you know, it's almost like kind of a semi-tearjerker, you know. You know, it's a dystopian future type of thing. There was a point where I almost was going to like, do I really want to watch this whole thing? But I stayed with it, and it was all right. It's just, you have to be, it's a little bit semi, well, not even semi. It's depressing.
Good morning.
In many ways, even though they try to have humor thrown in there to break up the monotony. But doesn't always really work. So, I don't know.
Wait, here comes a brother I know for sure can rap.
You got it. That's me. So, yeah.
Your papers, please.
Boy, this microphone is getting even worse. Now it just wants to fall down. All right. Here we go. I'm alive. Another day. Oh, by the way, so if anyone tried to get a teddy bear, they're temporarily out of stock, which is really weird. And I know someone who tried to get one, and I checked this morning, just a moment ago, and they're still out of stock. This 20% sale on everything still continues, and I know at least one person that bought one of the holiday shirts, and they got their 20% discount. So everything else seems to be there, or the majority of things seem to be there, but for some reason, teddy bears either sold out or something. I would try. The 20% off goes through Wednesday of this coming week. So if you want one of those teddy bears, maybe try back Tuesday or Wednesday morning or something like that. I wanted one. I was going to get one. We'll see what happens. I hope it's not one of those Chinese, supply chain things or something weird like that. And I think we're going to keep Beal, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore with us for a while. This set is kind of looking okay these days. So for the time being, I think we'll stick with this set. The news of the day. What do we want? Weather? Should we go weather or news? It's still the weekend. Let's do the
weekend weather.
All right, let's take a look. This is the first time I'm looking at this too. So it looks like everything I said yesterday has come true to fruition. Basically, those clouds have gone offshore, except for the Carolinas still have some cloud cover. I don't know if that's thick enough for rain or not. You guys would have to tell me down there if it's raining or not. If it's not raining and it's just because you can see the lights through the clouds from this Kona satellite taken about, an hour or two ago. This is kind of what it looks like here in this swath of North America. Look at all those lights run by carbon-based fuels. You're not going to replace those with bird killers or, solar farms. Anyway, no frickin' way. That's a pipe dream. And so you seem to be able to see the lights through the clouds from this low Earth orbit satellite. So I don't know. They don't look thick enough to be rain clouds, but you have to let me know. There was slight wheeze there. Residual AOCs, VOCs from painting. I'm hoping my duct tape, because it turns out when I use that duct tape roll to fix the ceiling in my bedroom, well, just to seal up over top of the staples that I stapled the plastic thing on, which if you're a fan of the show, you know what I'm talking about, and that's a lot of fast talking. Anyway, I'm hoping that holds out. And we'll see if there's I don't know if there'll be any sunrises out there that we were following for a while. The northwestern part has cleared up a tad, and clouds are moving on into the plains, the high plains. They're drifting. High Plains Drifter. Remember that Clint Eastwood movie? But the rest of the country is it's like clear. And that's why it's cold where it's usually cold. So it's, scary. So as far as the weather is concerned, here where I am, it's 30 degrees outside of my studio. Sunrise now today, because of the time change, remember you set your clocks back, will be 6:52 a.m. And by the time by the end of the month, that'll be like 7-ish. So, I don't know. Not a lot will have changed for me other than, it'll be light at 7. So I got to get out there to feed the birds at 7, which is when I used to feed them. And since it's currently 4:09, she's real fine, my 4:09 a.m. I'll be upstairs watching my show at like 6:10. So I'll get the first part in. Here it's going to be sunny in the 50s and even pop back up into the 60s. And we're not expecting rain until the end of the week here. Now that's in the mid-Atlantic states. You can see that it's clear in most parts, and you know what your local weather is. I can't tell the entire country what it's going to be like.
Weekend weather.
I mean, I'd like to, but this isn't a weather show. It's the morning show.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
No, I was going to put the news up, but it was weird. It was really weird. Like, it was childish politics. There was something in there about Biden does, is some braggart thing towards Trump because his bill passed, but his bill didn't really pass, and who the heck is Trump, right? Why does that matter? Do you see what I mean? Trump is an expert. I don't get it. Shouldn't he be directing that at like somebody in Congress, a current, political figure or something? They shaved $2 billion off of his bill, and the squad, AOC and company, basically didn't vote for it. I wouldn't call that a win, man. And to top it off, the whole darn thing is a fraud, because without fossil fuels, as you call them, carbon-based fuels, you're not going to get any infrastructure work done, right? Unless you start importing oil from Russia and OPEC. And maybe that's why they're doing a deal with Iran, and I guess they want Iran's oil. Unless they got since they're commies, they want to have, Venezuelan oil or something. Make some deal with them. It could well be. Watch out for that. Like I say, the world is run by an organized crime syndicate, and it's about socioeconomic geopolitics. And I know I have a smirk or smile on my face while I say this,
It's really funny. Really funny.
Okay.
But it's really It's really funny, because that's what it is. And don't be surprised if that's not that's something that happened. People are funny. They don't get that, All right. So speaking of the news, so I decided to bring up this La Palma as the news. Now, some people are saying the thing is like kind of, diminishing. However, a planned school return was canceled, and the earth tremors continue around the hot spots. But my guess is, and my take, because I've been following this, this is the seventh week of eruptions. It goes back to the 19th of December. So, it's funny they're saying concerns about La Palma air quality following the main cone collapse. The air quality is already pretty bad there. You're talking sulfur dioxide and all kinds of other toxins, man. But the ash is still shooting up into the sky, and so, you're looking at, today's the 7th. Excuse me. In one way, shape, or form, this thing will probably still be spewing ash into till about the 19th at least of this month, which is only like 12 days away. So you're talking, October, November, you're talking 2 months of ash from just one location, and there's ash coming up from other volcanoes. So that is going to, you're adding, forget about this COP 26 or whatever the heck was that, whatever that stupid thing they were having. The place where all these people, these so-called save the planet types, 400 of them flew in with private jets that run on carbon-based fuels. And believe me, they got no plans on giving up those private jets, right? And there have been experimental planes running on solar and, various electric type of things. But they're not those luxurious private jets that these guys have. And so you may see some showmanship in a couple of years, one or two people doing something like that. But see, what bothers me is the hypocrisy, So you got Bill Gates and a couple of major universities that are already experimenting with, so they're doing this. They're putting particulate matter in the sky to dim the sun, right? They're in the test phase without our permission, right? It's like I talk about the airwaves. It's a public airwaves, and it's our atmosphere. It's the people's atmosphere, over top of the U.S. and the rest of the world. And these guys decide, we're going to, do this thing to see if we could dim the sun. So they're doing that. Now, of course, this is not nature's dimming the sun with ash. This isn't the only volcano going off. And, excuse me. So, and then you have these hypocrites that are meeting, they have flying their private jets, some of the biggest consumers of carbon-based fuels in the world because they're billionaires. And their companies, some of their companies pretend to be like heading towards carbon neutral, but they're not. And these countries that, the countries that are leading these, the charge are smaller countries. They don't, their carbon footprint, so to speak, has not been big to begin with. But China's still like spewing up coal and relying on coal. And despite anything that comes out of the Communist Chinese Party, their press releases, they're not going to be participating in this. They can't. They have like 3.5 billion people there. And they get cold weather, and they've got they have to create a lot of energy. Cities like Beijing require a lot of energy. Cities like New York City require a lot of energy. You don't produce that with like bird killing, windmills that break down and no one wants to fix them, and that actually expend a lot of energy. Takes carbon-based fuels to create them. Or there's no room for solar farms on Manhattan unless they're going to put them on take away Central Park. And the footprint of a skyscraper is too small for solar panels on the roof, right? And, maybe along the river, the south-facing, or southwest or whatever, facing certain buildings that get sun on their glass. There have been some breakthroughs, though not much of it has been implemented in construction, and would require cranes and fossil fuels, carbon-based fuel cranes and heavy equipment to like refit these buildings' windows with some sort of solar, window and stuff. See, that's the part that they keep leaving out. It's the hypocrisy. But anyway, even though there is some technology, only a portion of the city would be able to, because the bulk of the major cities are basically, covered by other skyscrapers. I mean, it's shady in New York, except at high noon in the summertime. In most parts. I've lived in all those cities. I've lived in the major cities. And the ones I haven't lived in, I've spent a lot of time in, visited. London, Sydney, New York, LA, Philly, Boston, Chicago. I've been all these places, Had lunch underneath the St. Louis Arch by myself in my car just because I thought it was cool. Pulled off the side of the road near that big bat in Louisville, right? If you ever traveled around the country, the big bat, I don't know if it's still there, but it was when I was there. Big giant bat, Louisville slugger. And like I say, I talked about this before. They destroyed Cadillac Ranch, is all like graffitied. These people have no respect for something. It used to be a classic. But yeah, name a landmark. I've been there. Did the Cape May Lewis ferry. Took that many a time across. You could drive your car right on it. Of course, I lived on the Gulf Coast of Florida and visited many spots on the east coast of Florida. Yeah, I've been all over this great land, as they say. Lake Erie. You know, did the Internet's 80 route across the U.S. and then did the southern route. New Orleans during Mardi Gras. You know, yeah, I've been around. But anyway, all I can tell you is that it's hypocrisy and the country's gotten worse. They just built it up. And the last time, you know, that I did do some automotive traveling as a passenger, I was totally disheartened by seeing these once, you know, beautiful landscapes where they built these interstates to be totally destroyed by these ugly windmills with with thousands of dead birds underneath them. And some of them just not even working because they were, and they were built with taxpayer money, and then Wall Street came in and they were traded like a commodity. And just like in the what happened in 2008, when they were selling, mortgages were sold so many times that nobody even knew who was the ultimate holder of a particular mortgage. They were bundled and sold, by these traders. They did the same thing with those. So there's no responsibility, and they don't last forever, and so no one wants to fix them and repair them. And there's basically, and in some areas like where people don't realize that this stuff started to happen many years ago. All right. And the life expectancy of these things is like at max is 20 years, 15, 20 years, something like that. And that there are literally windmill graveyards already in the western part of the country, in California and stuff. Just these things rusting away. Just like I say, they become ruins, like ancient ruins, but like the old, like you see all those pillars and stuff in Greece and Rome and all over Egypt. And but that was a couple thousand years ago. This is like a decade or two ago, and we've got these like things, these obelisks, because the propellers eventually they fall off, and so there's like these little mini obelisks rusting away like ruins, right? Already, so it's almost like in a couple of in a generation or two, if the world were to survive the upcoming solar cataclysm, people would look at those goes and what was that? What was that thing? Oh, that's when people thought that they didn't know the atmosphere was mostly nitrogen and then oxygen and argon, and that CO2 and methane were just trace gases, and they were only 0.004% of the atmosphere, and that even as trace gases they were used, they gave the trees their life and the crops, which in turn fed us and gave humanity oxygen. They didn't understand that back in the early 2000s. And so they tried this stuff and it all failed. But finally, they came to their senses and, but I don't know. By the time people come to their senses, we're going to get hit with this. So, and no more of this. Yeah. Turn your clocks back now. Yeah, technically it was like 2:00 this morning. I thought I was getting up early because I asked my voice assistant what time it was. And then as I was in my bathroom shaving or whatever, I have an analog clock in there. And it was like 4 o'clock. It was like 10 going on 4 o'clock or something. I'm like, what the? I thought it was tonight. Yeah, it was today. And even the way that when I asked the voice assistant, the way it was explained, it said today, but, technically, 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. is tomorrow. When we say today's 2 a.m., we don't usually think behind, we think forward. We think the night tonight is 2 o'clock. It'll be 1 a.m. We think of that as tonight, not tomorrow morning. Anyway, that's why this is the morning show and not the late show. So, that said, turn your clocks back now. And I think that's clear enough. So let's just jump right into the music feature. This is the Allman Brothers Band that was recorded. I mentioned this yesterday. This was another album record. I'm leaving this big temporarily because it's was recorded at the Fillmore East in 1971. 2 different occasions. One Way Out, Midnight Rider were recorded at the Fillmore East, but later when they returned in June of that same year. And Tom Dowd was the producer of this record. And Tom Dowd is an interesting character. If you ever could catch the documentary on Tom Dowd, he's an interesting character. That guy had his hands in more things and was more responsible for modern music. This is the back cover of the album. And the front cover is is similar to this, which I didn't bother putting in because reason I wanted to show you the songs that are on this. This was a 2-disc set. And of course, Statesboro Blues, incredible. Stormy Monday Live on here is like kick-ass. In Memory of Elizabeth Reed is wild, 13 minutes. Now, they have that acoustic. There's an acoustic version of that. I have a copy of that, which is good in its own right. But, I mean, this 13-minute version, live version of In Memory of Elizabeth Reed is just outrageous. And then disc 2 is like a whole jam side. Hot Lana, Whipping Post, Mountain Jam, Drunken Hearted. That's just that's just all a jam. The whole album's a jam. And of course, these guys are drinking their beers, their Pabst Blue Ribbons. But anyway, that's the Allman Brothers Band live at the Fillmore. I don't know. Maybe I could do a quick search for it. Let's see. New Allman Brothers live at Fillmore East. If I can just get a quick cover, just so you can see the front. Because that was like the roadies and stuff. Might as well see the band. It's like pull this in from Amazon, so forgive me. Albums. Almonds front. So just do this for you. Change it right up. I wanted you to see those songs, though. So browse. Almonds front. Open. Okay. So there you have. And of course, you've got Greg and Dwayne there. both alive then. So that's it. And I guess now it's a deluxe edition. So highly recommended. If you're not unaware of it, like I say, this was recorded in 1971, which is 50 years ago. So if you were at that concert and you were like 20, right? You were in college or something. You're 70 years old. So you're either in your late 60s or into your 70s, depend. If you were 30 years old, you're like 80 years old. It's crazy when you think about it. But if you're 30 now and you listen to this album, you'll dig it. You'll groove on it. Because it's timeless. It's just rockin' bluesy. This is a great album, great song. And again, like I say, these live recordings back then, and Tom Dowd, he was the guy that he could record stuff, and he was using this analog equipment that he pretty much figured out and wired all this stuff up himself. And the reason these albums had such a great sound, was a lot of albums. Like I say, there's a documentary about Tom Dowd. I saw it once. I don't know where I saw it. And he's just reminiscent, and all the artists and stuff talking about him and stuff. And he was this old guy. Back then he was he's gone now. And he was an old guy, and he was working with all these guys in their 20s and 30s, young band members, rock and rollers. And, here's this old dude. But he was responsible for this stuff. So the Allman Brothers Band at Fillmore East. And I don't know why particularly they're calling this one. This was from Amazon. This photo, they're calling this a deluxe edition, but whether you get the deluxe edition, whatever that means, or just Allman Brothers Band at the Fillmore East, I highly recommend you listen to it. It's a really good album. And, like the Humble Pie thing I told you about yesterday, and Steppenwolf Live, which I referred to as well. Those are 3 live albums, and all of them double disc sets that are beyond compare. There's nothing in comparison to that in recent years. In decades. And that's something we've lost. We've really lost. And so and perhaps as crazy as it might sound, is no wonder politics is pop culture, because pop culture, which used to be things like really good music, and the whole concept of the record, like I said, I have to bring mine out. Where is it? The big album, There's just something about that, and the ability to have lyrics and posters and all of that stuff. There's just something about it, Blast from your past, man. Blast from your past. So, yeah.
Funky, 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 funky.
I didn't realize that was on loop. That happened to me yesterday, too. So, in any event,
you have actually opened the door to another dimension?
I don't know why you're questioning that, my friend. Okay, so 4:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? I get. Let's just check that to get that straight. I mean, The whole thing is so absurd. Eastern Daylight Time. Let's see. They're just saying Eastern Time. Are we currently EDT or EST? EDT, Daylight Time. So it's Eastern Daylight Time. Says 4. Well, UTC 4. No, that's UTC. Current time. No, it's I'll tell you, this is so crazy. Today's November 7th, and there's something in here November 6th. What states are in Eastern Daylight Time? There's not even really an answer here. I'm assuming this is Eastern Standard Time. But according to YouTube, here, I'll show you this. I just want to show you how absurd this is. I don't like doing this, these screen capture things, because it's a pain in the ass. And it messes up with my thing. But take a look here. It says, it's the right time, 4:35 a.m. when I opened this up. Sunday, November 7th, Eastern Time. People also ask, are we in EDT or EST? Eastern Time Zone, EST 5, EDT 4. But this is UTC, which is, universal time. So current time, look at 10:25, 6 November 21 East. I just did this search. So that's like YouTube, man. What's up with, or Google, what's up with you, man? Totally weird. I just had to share that with you because it's so absurd. Well, let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. Anyway, turn your clocks back now because it's some kind of time. On the east where I am, it's 4:37 Eastern Time, I think. Crazy. It serves no purpose. It serves no purpose whatsoever. It's still going to be, when you consider like work and school. Okay. All right. They do this November 7th. So basically, we're close to, at 7 a.m., like the school buses, the kids are out there. Because I walk to the grocery store at, sometimes when I do, at because they open at 7 a.m. And so it's been dark, and I've seen kids like at some of the bus stops, you could hear them waiting for a school bus or something. So I guess they go to school at 7, something crazy like that. I'm pretty sure, or just after 7. And so it's dark either way. Right? So you're not helping the kids. That's meaningless for commuters and people because they're in their cars. They got headlights on. This was wasn't this a World War II type of thing? Or something to conserve lights for the war effort, like a victory garden or something. It's like the Patriot Act. No, it's not that bad. But I mean, once they pass something, they never get rid of it. It's just like it stays. Nobody because they don't care and they don't even know what's in the bill. This is like a very minor annoyance, really. It's a minor annoyance having to set these clocks twice a year. But it's an annoyance nonetheless. But it's the idea of quality of life. Like, in other words, the lawmakers have no concern about, because they've got servants, right? The people that talk like that Copernic, whatever his name is, that's saying that people making $1 million salaries in the NFL are modern day slaves, right? And so these legislators and these ruling elite, you know, they have servants that'll set their clocks back, or they can afford to have all this digital, whatever, automatic stuff. And so they don't have to be concerned with it. So they're not concerned with it. They don't care about us, the common person. Think of how much labor is involved in areas like around the country, how much wasted time and energy is spent on turning the clocks back and then in the spring turning them ahead. You know, I'm talking a lot, you know, like, because everything's not digital. And a lot of these big clocks, like imagine these like big clock towers and stuff. You know, they're not digital. So somebody has to go in there and like some kind of crank thing to move those giant hands, you know, back an hour. Imagine like in every town where they have clocks like that, or in like train stations and stuff where you see those type of clocks, you know, big clocks. Like, you know, I mean, I remember used to have one in Grand Central Station. I remember because I used to be up there all the time. I don't know if they've changed that to a digital clock by now. That was 30 years ago, more. It's just one of those goofy things. It's like if you don't, but it's it's a way of looking. If people aren't paying attention to the little things, if they're unconcerned about the little things, you know they're not concerned about the big things either. I mean, that's a sure sign of it. You know, you could watch that. You know, it's like if somebody's sloppy, right? You know, in a little way, you know they're probably sloppy in a big way, right? Someone comes in and they, you know, don't wipe their feet, you know, on a mat when they walk in a house. You know that they're probably dirty other ways, right? It's like these people who use restrooms in bars and places like that, and they don't wash their hands and stuff when they come out. And in the old days when they'd have things like pretzels or nuts on the bar, and they would have no problem sticking their hands in and grabbing some pretzels and stuff. You know, and other people are like, it's gross, isn't it? Yeah. But I mean, that's the whole idea. Imagine, you know, understanding the ruling elite. People that are spoiled, who are taken care of, are mollycoddled. You know, those are the type of people that end up, you know, rising to the top. Because they don't have the wherewithal, they have the money. They've been taken care of, they've been groomed. It's a better word, right? It's like when I was young, I was being groomed, you know, to be like a Rhodes Scholar and a politician type of guy and all that kind of stuff. I was being groomed. And I had meetings and different things that occurred to me over when I was young. And in the beginning, I was oblivious to it, but later on, I realized that they were trying to, you know, get me in that thing. But I had no interest in being, you know, that. Because they go after certain people. I mean, you see how my mind works. So, you know, they want, and my ability to talk, you know, in public, do these things. And, you know, back then I was much younger and was good looking. And at a certain age, I was, you know, quite the dashing person. And so they select people like that and they groom them for success. Like that line from Jethro Tull. And groomed me for success. Yuck. And taught me how not to play the game. I didn't mind You ever hear that song? That, my friends, will be the album for tomorrow. I need to write that down. I just got a whole new pack of index cards. This is what I use. I use index cards for notes. I'm not going to tell you what that is. These featured albums just come to me. So anyway, I guess this is more of a flow of consciousness show as well. It's about time, the show. Do you know what time it is? You know, turn your clocks back now. It's look at the clocks with Mr. Beale. It's kind of one of the reasons I left him up to time around the world. I noticed on my TV, freedom is fun, gets cut off. I kind of think it's my TV because it doesn't happen when I view this on the internet. So I'm not going to bring anything in any further. So kind of a slow start to the show. But we covered a lot of ground.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
A lot of ground already. So what would you like to hear? What would you like to hear? Well, I'll tell you, we'll just talk about things in general. The state of affairs. There's no need to get excited about anything or any rant. I've been, as they talk about, how little that the people who've been tasked with doing the people's work, those elected officials and unelected bureaucrats who technically are still tasked by us because we elect people, we vote for people, we empower people to do a task, and in turn, if that's a task that requires multiple people to do, so in effect that we're still empowering those bureaucrats also answer to us, you see, because they work for us indirectly. And, I've talked before about the breakaway civilization. I have a song called Breakaway Civilization. I don't know if I have it here on my list of songs. Let's see. Breakaway Civilization, not there. Let's see. Breakaway Civilization, not there. So, no dice. But that's a different thing. That's the Davos set. That's the World Economic Forum, folks. But then you have this split society of the self-appointed ruling elite and the bureaucrats. The corporatocracy, really, right? Because, in effect, the ruling elite and bureaucrats are so intertwined and controlled by the corporatocracy. Corporatocracy meaning big tech, big data, big pharma, big ag, right? Military contractors, Wall Street, etc. And so you have that crew, all right? And then you have the hundreds of millions of other people, and that's just in the U.S., who are not a part of that. And so you've got three groups. One, you have the complete breakaway civilization that are just not living in the same world as we are. I mean, it's just simply not the same world. their daily life, their existence, what they do, how they live and stuff is just completely, beyond your wildest imagination. You could take things you may see in a movie, and maybe sometimes some movies have come close to it, but when people see it, they see stuff like that in a movie, they just take in passing, they just like, it just goes in one ear, out the other, or through their eyes and out the back of their head. Right? I said this once before in another thing, but it bears repeating because I'm sure it went in and out and people no one really grasped it. But I was recently watching another movie, and you see this in a lot of these thrillers, these political thrillers, these international type of things. And they were trying. It was the Blacklist. I was watching that. Is the Blacklist over? I mean, did they fake what's her face's death in that? And is there another season? Because I watched it on Netflix, like season 8 or whatever the heck it was, where she got shot in the end. But was that is there another season that happened this fall? Or is this late enough that that's the end? Because I can't imagine, unless they did fake her death. I don't know. That was weird. But anyway, there was some assassin or somebody that they were trying to catch in one of those episodes, not that particular one. And they were describing this individual as, this is the type of guy that's hired by, organized crime people, big corporations and governments, to take out people. And that was just a line. And then they went on and they were like other information because they were trying to track down who this guy was that was after them or somebody. And that line just in passing. It's like I say, when people watch that movie Clear and Present Danger, or even some of these Jack Reacher movies, or even Bond films for that matter, people watch them and they see this stuff and it's like, they think as if, oh, well, that's just a movie. And I always try to push and stress to people is that, no, if it's in a movie, it's watered down, it's less than reality. It's not make-believe or fantasy. It's basically comes from people who've worked in, intelligence or in these bureaucracies or in governments or in these areas, and who have written these things, and it's watered down. In many cases, they are consultants to so-called Hollywood, writers and, whatever. And it's like the idea. So you have to understand that the gravity of that statement that had been made in countless times in television shows and movies, right? And in novels and whatnot. But it's true. Like I say, I've forgotten my earlier litany of cities. I didn't mention that I lived and worked in Capitol Hill too. Though you know that because you heard me say it 1,000 times. Literally, considering the number of videos I've done. But yeah, so these assassins, these hitmen, whatever, hit women, are the type of people hired by governments, organized crime, and international corporations. Now, I think most people understand organized crime hires hitmen. Okay. You know that. Okay. You've seen enough. You've seen the Godfather movies or similar ones. Okay. I think that at least a majority of people understand that the government and, agencies such as the CIA, among others, ones you don't even know about, but you understand that they're involved in political assassinations, right? Coups and all that kind of stuff. regime change, etc. I think the majority of people, there are some who don't, like can't conceive it, but the majority understand that, and this country has done its share of political assassination. But when it comes to the idea of understanding about corporate espionage, all right, and corporate assassins and stuff, that is definitely not the majority of people. Because when they hear that or see that in a movie, TV show, or even something in passing in the news that alludes to that, an event or something like that, where it points to it, either the news readers or whatever, they steer people away from that. It's never taught in schools, obviously. And when someone like me says it, or if you, point to it, it's even the Epstein thing, right? Just the idea of suggesting that is considered, by most people, they don't accept that, right? In other words, they'll go with the media thing, right? Well, we've looked into it, and there's no sign, it seems to have been a suicide. Well, of course they're going to say that, because the very people who investigated it had the most to lose, or were probably involved in, suiciding the guy. This is a guy who had dirt on princes, all right? Presidents, dictators, CEOs, right? They had to take him out. All right. Do you understand? Governments and trillion dollar and $100 billion corporations, life is not. Did you think they're going to let one individual topple, $100 billion, take away $100 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars a year? Or topple $1 trillion company? No, of course not. I mean, follow the logic there. And this occurs all the time. And that's why with this thing right now, there are still people that haven't seen or don't accept that, those interviews with the former CIA director or the former director of intelligence that have admitted that the communist Chinese knew about this thing, and that this thing was already a thing in the summer of 2019 prior to Event 201. And there may be some people that just don't even know what Event 201 was. Right? And so, and that follows through that, so that's 2.5 years ago. Over 2.5 years ago. When this thing could have been stopped. And so now the same people who have, so whether it's a coincidence or not, which it's doubtful it's a coincidence, but, the people involved, the parties involved in this are now making hundreds of billions of dollars in profit. So why would they want to shut off those hundreds of billions of dollars? You see, it's like the cancer industry. Yeah, I mentioned this before. It's hundreds of billions of dollars a year. They don't care that 600,000+ people die every year. Every 10 years, over 6 million people are killed. Right? Die of cancer. Same with heart disease. 6 million people every 10 years. 6 million people is a lot of people. And, when Hitler killed 6 million people, that was a big deal. As it should have been. But 6 million people are being killed, allowed to die by an industry that just wants to make profit. So this isn't death by dictator. This is death by corporations. Right? I'm sorry to make that correlation because, it's something that, no one wants to even talk about that. But it's true. Death by corporation, death for profit. In one case, you have death by a, megalomaniac, maniacal, psychopathic, mass murderer, genocidal killer, right? Takes out 6 million people. And in another instance here, we have 6 million people being taken out by corporations, in effect, for profit. And not just, it's actually 12 million people. Well, there's actually more than that because there's about 2 million people a year that are dying from things that they don't need to really die from if their society really cared about people. So it's more like 20 plus million people are being killed by corporate greed. Right? And like I said before, profit's fine and dandy. But, corporate greed that leads to the death of 20 million people, now you're approaching dictators and, some of the worst people who've ever walked the face of this earth. But these companies advertise on TV and people go to work and jobs with their, coat and ties and fancy clothes and have nice offices and have cocktail parties and have happy hours and holiday parties with, who work for these companies. This 'tis the season, right? And they're working for mass murderers, in effect. Big pharma are mass murderers. The medical industry, healthcare industry, industries, they call them. Industries. I've talked about this when I had my problem, which is still exists, and what I've went through, that, in the Hippocratic Oath, it's do no harm. Well, the healthcare industry, the medical industry, big pharma, there's no Hippocratic Oath involved. And they're all, many a doctor worked for them. Millions. And they don't even know, see, that's the thing. You'll say, well, my wife works for such and such a company and she doesn't know. It's like the people who work for certain, these, congressional pages and interns, in D.C. and some ideologues who work in the West Wing, right, for these they're true believers. They call them Boy Scouts. They're doing something. They believe the hogwash they hear. They're all starry-eyed when they hear their leader speak. You see, they're hypnotized, right? And which reminds me of something else, which some people may know. Just making notes, my friends. Don't forget, it's 20% off. Shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and all that stuff now through Wednesday. And for some reason, the bears were temporarily out of stock. But that doesn't mean... But the other stuff's still there. But yeah, so Sorry to break it up with a sales pitch, but, you know, 'tis the season, and I got a lot of bills. I'm way behind. So, you know, I have someone, you know, see if I have a thing. Well, anyway, this absurdity. Piece of metal that came out of my tooth, and of course, this is what I'm facing. You know, that's my only friend. You know. But I'm going to temporarily put this thing up. Image. Call this divorce. You know, I've been like semi-tasked by someone. Where is this thing? I know I put it in there. No, it's not there. Let's see if I put it in here. I don't know if I would have been foolish enough to drag it in, and if I did drag it in, oh yeah, I changed the thing. Okay. All right. So someone wants me to help them sell these things. Understanding divorce, coping with emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce. Let me just take this bigger so you can read it. You know, as if I'm the guy to do this. And so in this thing, you get a DVD, a workbook, shared parenting guide from the Association of Family Counselation Courts, whatever, and additional parenting material, and a calculator. Now, so this individual, who in effect I'm kind of semi-indebted to do this. They've done me many favors over the years. I actually have one of the kits here. Okay. Now I'm curious because it says you get a calculator with it. Now I want to double check because this thing is like old. These go back to like 2007. And I'm trying to figure a way to sell these things. Like he wants to sell them on eBay, and I think eBay kicked me off. This is just a weird part of the show. What does this have to do with like political assassination? But anyway, this is the thing. You know, there's the box I showed you. There's a back to it. It's a package. I just took the shrink wrapping off, and now I'm opening. Okay, you see here. Let's see if you can see through the light. There's booklets and all kinds of crap in here. So, and I guess this is the calculator, I'm imagining. Or is it a DVD? It's got to be the calculator. There's the DVD. Made in China calculator. Now, first of all, I think one thing he might not understand is that people don't have geez, this thing is even branded with this company name on it, which I don't believe exists anymore. This is the calculator. I'm trying to figure out how to open it. It looks like there's some kind of how do you open it? Okay, so that's problem number one. How do you open this top to get the calculator to work? If you can't open it with your fingers, I don't see any release. I don't even understand the idea of why you needed to give them a calculator, as if everyone doesn't have a calculator in the year 2021. But I can't get this top open. Oh. It opens up by magic. Now, let's see. 6 times 3 equals 18. Clear. So the question is, if it's a solar calculator, or is this battery just somehow stayed alive that long? Right? You see that? But I don't see any, there's no solar panel here. So how long will that? And so do you close this and that shuts it off? Anyway, so you get a calculator. You get a CD, Understanding Divorce. You get a booklet, a workbook, which I guess prepares you for going to see your lawyer or having everything done. I mean, I guess you can go, don't they have like, and then some kind of thing about shared parenting, right? Printed January 2006. See, I was right. The guy told me, he said, we didn't do that job until 2009. I go, I scanned this stuff in 2007. This was when I was at the agency. So anyway, I have no idea. So what's the name of that? This is like,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
This is just my morning vlog. I'm just going through my daily life here. What's the name of that stupid legal is it LegalZoom? Is that the one? Official site? Let's see. LegalZoom. Personal. Divorce. Start your uncontested divorce online. I see. All right. So apparently you can do something like that. So I guess it doesn't go against it. So I guess if you had this, filled this out as a workbook, and these were sold for $9.95, it might work. Let's put that there instead of the album. What I'm going to do is I have to take a slight break, and I'll be back. So I'm going to play one of my songs, Bigger Than That, and tell me what you think.
How are we supposed to pay for this and that? And they overcharge us for everything else. How do they expect us to act when they're kicking us down to the ground? How supposed to live? Can't afford rent. What are we supposed to believe when we know they're telling us lies? What we're supposed to do? Got no jobs and place to go. Where are they taking this country? What are they doing with the land? Bigger than that, better than that. Enough of the bull, lying crap. Bigger than that, better than that. Enough of the bull, lying crap. All the politicians are shoveling it. All the media are shoveling it. All the corporations are shoveling it. All the bankers are stealing it. The government, they're stealing it. Why should we fight their wars? When they only about sell weapons. Why should we pay their taxes? When they only go to the wars. Why should we believe anything they say? When their smiling faces tell lies. Bigger than that, better than that. Enough of the bull, lying crap. Bigger than that, better than that. Enough of the lying, bull crap. Politicians are shoveling it. Media are shoveling it. The corporations are shoveling it. Bankers are stealing it. The government, they're stealing it.
It's not hard to see that things have gotten from bad to worse everywhere. Humanity's clearly on a path of self-destruction and hopelessness. Not that things haven't seemed dreadful before. Ancient barbarism and slavery, the plague, the Holocaust, and all those wars. But amid the horror and despair in days gone by, there are always places and people in other parts of the world that were unaffected. Places for the fortunate to escape to. people who were welcoming and who cared. Now we live in a world of desperation where billions of people are suffering. Poor, sick, enslaved, just downright unhappy.
Anyway, sorry to break you up if you were getting into that song, but let's see. I was gone about 5 minutes. So, that was weird. I'm sorry I had to take a break. Nature called. Brutally honest show here we have, all right? You know, I'm sorry to have to be the one to, you know.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
So anyway, divorce, understanding divorce. I don't know if I'll be able to sell that stuff. I mean, anyone, like it was, the idea was that he was going to split, thought that we could make $2 each on it. But he doesn't understand that I'm not interested in making any money at all, really. So he could make all of the profit. So it's a question of where people are really still buying things. And the thing is, you know, his push was for eBay. And I was saying that, Allman Brothers band, that, you know, turn your clocks back, that I think Instagram and I think Facebook marketplaces are hotter right now, right? Isn't that where most people do it? So it's like, the problem is this individual isn't really internet savvy. So I don't know. I've been divorced twice. I don't have any children. My first wife did remarry and has children. The second one got married in a Las Vegas wedding chapel. Right? Thank you very much. And she was just using me to get a green card. She was a Dutch actress, 6 foot tall. Yeah. Kind of looked like, you know, in her younger days, Jennifer O'Neill. Remember that? The Summer of 42. Yeah, she looked like that. Later on, she almost started to take on a better version. It's hard to imagine Jennifer O'Neill turning into the girl with the big smile. Who was in that movie with Richard Gere. What's her name? I can't think of it. Anyway. Either way, she was like, you know, she was striking. You know. And I was living out in LA at the time, and I was living in Malibu, so she got the full, like, so-called Hollywood, you know, experience. But she used me, and she was having an affair with a married man before she came, but I guess she never really totally cut it off, so it's like, yeah, it was like a real scene. I talked about it once, but the point was, you know, that didn't last long, and we had that thing. Went to a lawyer and got divorced. So I've been a free man for for 30 years. I've had a couple of relationships since then, but one of them long-term, kind of semi-long-term. You know, but nothing. Now I'm a confirmed bachelor. And the thing about it is, I don't think I needed any kind of understanding divorce thing. We just went to a lawyer and had him do it. But I guess if kids are involved, you would need something like that, a workbook, and I guess if you had a lot of, you know, properties or something. It's almost like, But see, that's the whole thing. See, that's the paradox about this. I'm talking about this out loud just to figure this out. But I know if I say this to this individual, that he won't accept it. In other words, if you're the type of person that's going through a divorce and you need, because you have complicated financial, you've got holdings, real estate, and all this kind of other stuff. Yeah, my divorces were simple because I was like pretty much a free spirit, didn't have an awful lot, owned a car, that's about it, was renting, you know what I mean? So the divorces were not, a matter of like, okay, well, you got the house in Florida and, you take the villa, So, the type of person that would have multiple properties or a lot of financial investments and things like that is going to have no problem just going to a lawyer and having them like draft the documents, and just, it's a matter like you see in the movies, sending someone over to have them sign the papers, right? Or going to court, for to have some judge or something, divorce court, and to have them decide on custody, whether or not it's joint custody, et cetera, right? So I almost think I don't see the benefit of this necessarily, right? Because the poor person, it's usually irreconcilable differences and mutually agree. I mean, I don't know. But custody, if you have children, I guess. So I guess this would be targeted at a poor person that wanted to maintain custody or joint custody of the children. So maybe, I still say it would be Facebook Marketplace. Excuse me, pardon me. So, what is Facebook Marketplace? New window. Let's see. Facebook Marketplace. I know it exists. The problem with Facebook is they always sell your products on Facebook. They always want you to log in. They're calling this, they've actually already called this Meta for Business. I'm going to do the display capture so you can see what I'm talking about. This is just less exploring life right now. I mean, yeah. It's so weird how it does that. Okay, so Meta for Business, you could see up here at the top. So they've already changed it. It is Meta now. Enabling shopping on Facebook apps. Create an ad, create a page. Make sure your business is eligible. Set up commerce, work with a partner, turn on messaging. Check to see if shopping tools are available in your country. Read our commerce eligibility. All businesses selling on Facebook, Instagram must meet certain criteria. Let's see here. United States. You must be located. Okay. Doesn't seem to be a big deal for the United States. Okay, so that's whatever. Read our commerce eligibility requirements. Comply with our policies, represent your business and your domain, be located in a supported market, demonstrate trustworthiness, provide accurate information and best practices. Comply with our policies. Your Facebook account and page must comply with Facebook terms of service. In addition, lack of compliance. Represent your business and domain. Yeah. Instagram. If you are direct buyers of Facebook commerce services, be located in a supported market. So I just need to basically send, this thing to this guy, Okay. Display capture off. Turn your clocks back now. I'm sorry for this kind of discombobulation of the show. Maybe I won't. Well, I don't know. I will put this show on. I guess I'll put this show around, but there's really nothing, we've got about a half hour to go and there's nobody watching live. My coffee has become cold. I left you for 5 minutes, but you got to hear 2 songs. I'm going to get 2 copyright strikes for my own music, however. So anyway, that's that. It's 5:32 now, 5:31 on my Mac. I set a digital clock. I have a digital clock up on my TV. It's...
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I'm being honest, this is the morning vlog. This is my life. You're entering my life, what can I say? This is my life. And I just, I let you in every morning. Sometimes I'm opinionated about things, but this is what I do. This is what I do. People ask me to help them sell some kind of thing like, this divorce kit. I'm trying to get people to buy my books. There's a Kodak, great solar stuff over here. That thing. And I don't know, I got the hiccups. So I don't know. It's just a matter of having company, having company in the morning, it's good morning. It's sometimes these shows are just so, blah. But I guess I could end it there. Yeah. Rather than just force myself to try to come up with some other kind of thing. I guess I could just end it. Good morning and, all of that stuff. So thanks for watching. And again, as always, it's getting to be, 'tis the season and getting to be that time. And I'd appreciate it if you'd, buy something, but it's up to you. I make this stuff for you folks. That's not highly profitable for me. And like I'm showing you with that divorce thing, I don't even want to make profit on that. I'll just help the guy out. I don't want anything from it.